Welcome into CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John's. Try the new grilled buffalo chicken papadilla for just $6. I'm Joe Musso, flanked by our team of analysts, here to put the finishing touches on a lopsided affair between the top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide and the LSU Tigers. That's number one, taking on unranked LSU. Last year's game, an absolute thriller. LSU pulled it out 46-41 en route to a national title. Different LSU team. Tigers lost 17 starters from last year's team. Some teams rebuild, others reload. The Tide looking to deliver a little bit of heartbreak of their own. 28.5-point favorites, Alabama, largest against a defending champ in over 40 years. Najee Harris showing you why. 14 yards on the opening drive of the game to put Bama up 7-0 early. Mid-first quarter now. Second to go from the one. Give it to the man again. Harris punches it in for his second touchdown of the first quarter. Bama out in front, 14-0. Late first now, same score. Mac Jones getting the passing game going a little bit. Hits a wide open Jaleel Billingsley, the tight end type, just left alone. An absolute walk-in for Billingsley, who's now scored in 2 straight games. That's Mac Jones' 24th touchdown pass of the season. Can't shortchange the man. Bama up 21-0. Early second quarter, LSU trying to get in on the scoring act. TJ Finley hits a wide open Kayshon Boutte. Boutte takes it all the way in, but wait, drops it at the 1. Ball bounces around. It would be reviewed, and it was upheld as a touchdown. That right there is why. Heads up play by Jontre Kirklin of LSU, scoops it, and the score would stand, so it's 21-7. But when you got instant offense on the other side, there's really no playing catch-up. Jones deep to Devonta Smith, his first, not his last. Bama up 28-7. Smith's 9th touchdown in his last 4 games. Next Alabama possession, did I say not done? Jones to Smith. Copy, paste, result. Bama up 35-14, humming into half with plenty of time to score again. How about 53 seconds left in the half? This is just a go-get-it ball. Go get it, Smith. Goes up with one hand and brings in the dime from Mac Jones. Jones to Smith connecting for their 3rd touchdown of the first half. Bama out in front, 45-14, covering the number at the break. Devonta Smith finished the day 8 receptions, 231 yards, 3 touchdowns. You know who else had 3 touchdowns? Najee Harris. Takes the handoff, goes in 11 yards untouched. Bama out in front, 52-14. Final score in this one, 55-17. It's the most points Alabama has ever scored against LSU in the storied history of these two teams. In the process, Alabama clinches the SEC West. They cover the 28.5, and the over comes through no problem. Our Jamie Erdahl caught up with Coach Saban postgame.
Coach, I know we talked before the game about consistency, and then we talked at halftime about mental errors. How did this game play out for you from a big picture standpoint?
Well, I think we played better in the second half. I think it was a good experience for us. I think we played really well offensively in the game, and sort of controlled the tempo of the game offensively. And I thought we played better on defense in the second half. We made some adjustments, and the kids responded well. So just got to keep on keeping on.
We saw some emotions from your players, perhaps both good and bad, as that game wore on. How have you taught them to channel that appropriately as this season has progressed?
Well, you want guys to play with emotion, but you really don't want them to be emotional, because when you get emotional, you make bad decisions. And there was a lot of emotion on both sides, and we don't like for our guys to talk to the other players and not get involved in things like that. So, the way you can win with class, and that's certainly what we want our players to do.
We're seeing Devonta Smith go over and greet his family, and I know he's a local guy. Do you love moments like this and seeing a kid come back here and perform that way?
Well, no question about it. I think we have 4 guys in the front 7 from this area, and Smitty, obviously, is an outstanding player for us, and just love him as a person and love him as a player, and he's a great competitor, and I'm sure this means a lot to him.
You're headed to the SEC Championship. Congrats, Coach.
Well, we got a game next week, I think, too, so we better take care of business.
My mistake. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Credit to Jamie Erdahl for getting a smile out of Coach. There's only 1 or 2 a season, and there's usually a trophy involved, so fantastic stuff out of our Jamie Erdahl right there. But on the box score here, 55-17 tells the story, but inside of that story, some fantastic characters. Mac Jones, it's his 5th game with 4+ passing touchdowns this season. Devonta Smith, as you heard, the 231 yards on Saturday night. He now has 15 receptions, 444 yards, 5 TDs in the last 2 games against the rival LSU Tigers. Meanwhile, nothing good for LSU, allowing the most points, 55, against Alabama in series history, and they lose to Alabama for the 9th time in the past 10 meetings. Let's welcome in our guys, Bryant McFadden and Barrett Sallee, to respond to an absolute, I think how you put it here, a molly-whopping. I think that's a BMAC term. So, BMAC, I'll go to you first here on this molly-whopping. Completely one-sided. Messages sent, revenge is exacted. What did you make of the Crimson Tide as they do set their sights now on the SEC championship game and what lies beyond?
A focused group. They were dialed in. We didn't see any slow, sluggish starts on both sides of the football, especially on the offensive end with Mac Jones. He continues to dominate. And one thing I would like to highlight outside of Mac Jones and Devonta Smith and Najee Harris, I mean, Steve Sarkisian, he's been at his best this season. When you look at the calls, he's been dialing up at the right time, you know, getting his guys in the best positions to be successful. And once again, he was able to showcase that talent, that skill set that he has on the sideline, being able to get the most out of his outstanding offensive players. And then defensively, you know, we saw some hiccups here and there, but for the most part, they settled down and they got after the quarterback. They made sure things were very, very difficult for the opposing quarterback, whoever LSU had in the backfield, and they just continue to improve as well. And that's why you have to like Alabama's chances, not just getting through the rest of their schedule with ease, but being able to get into the playoffs and cause a lot of havoc, because they are the most balanced team right now in college football.
Yeah, they really are. And I think what Nick Saban said to Jamie Erdahl is coach speak, but it's very accurate with how they approach this season. He wants players to play with emotion but not be emotional. And this is a tough task going into this game, which was a revenge game. Nick Saban can handle it, but you're talking about players, and we saw that with Devonta Smith and some other guys who are local, that these guys know each other. They're mad about what happened last year. Alabama's players know what that locker room speech was like after it leaked on social media. So being emotional for this game was something that I think Nick Saban had to fight against. And these dudes just went about their business. They went about, did everything the way that it needed to be done. They didn't get out in front of their skis. I think the biggest thing about this, 6 for 6 in the red zone. That's just insane. That means they weren't getting rattled. They weren't getting concerned. They just went about their business. So it was really impressive. I think when you talk about Nick Saban teams, like BMAC said, it's the most complete team in the country. I would say it's the most complete team of Nick Saban's era in Tuscaloosa. These guys just manage everything well. Adversity, the adversity that they've seen, which really was just the Ole Miss game, they handled it. They didn't panic. And then this game, they didn't get too emotional. They went about their business and just thoroughly dismantled a lesser team.
Yeah, maybe not the most dominant offensive line they've had in Saban's tenure. Maybe not the strongest defense as a whole. Maybe not the best running back that's ever come out of Bama. But the sum of the parts seems to be clicking right now. And it's going to be a tall task for anyone that encounters this Alabama Crimson Tide offense and defense. Let's talk about Devonta Smith here for a moment, because unreal numbers on Saturday night. And with all due respect to Kyle Trask and the guy throwing Smith the ball, is there a more dominant weapon, a more dominant force when we're talking about possibility of being there, hearing his name called as a Heisman Award winner? Is there a more dominant player in college football right now, Barrett?
No, there's not. On the Heisman ballot, it says it goes to the most outstanding player in college football. It doesn't say most outstanding quarterback. It doesn't say most outstanding running back. It says most outstanding player, and that's Devonta Smith. Look, you saw LSU devote 2 guys to him. You saw him put a safety over the top. I don't know why they were in man so much, but they did offer some umbrella coverage, and it didn't matter. And it's Devonta Smith is such a weapon. And then on top of that, what he does is he gets people out of the box, and that opens up running lanes for Najee Harris and Brian Robinson, and it opens up things underneath for Mac Jones on crossing route. He makes everything click. You know, I know it's easy to say, okay, Mac Jones is the centerpiece. No, Devonta Smith is the centerpiece, and I said at halftime, and I stand by it now. I had Kyle Trask atop my Heisman rankings for basically 6 weeks. That changed today, and it has nothing to do with what Kyle Trask does. It has everything to do with what Devonta Smith can consistently do and how much he impacts this Alabama offense.
You know, I think before the concussion that Kyle Pitts sustained against Georgia, he definitely was in that direction when you talk about the most dominant non-quarterback in college football. But the injury happened, he missed a ball game, and we really haven't seen the dominating performances that he showcased before the injury. So I'm right there with you, Barrett. I think when you look at non-quarterbacks in college football right now, Devonta Smith might be the smallest dominating player that we've seen in quite some time. He reminds me a lot of Allen Iverson. He might not be the biggest guy, the strongest guy, but he plays with a huge heart, and he continues to dominate people that are bigger than him week in and week out. When you look at his numbers, I mean, this is so crazy and mind-boggling for me. Over the last 4 ball games, going back to Mississippi State, he had 203 yards receiving that ball game, and then Kentucky 144, and then Auburn 171, and then tonight 231. And I think in that 4-game stretch I just read off to you, he has around 11, 12 passing touchdowns. I mean, he just finds so many different ways to impact the ball game. And the wide receiver quarterback combo that we're seeing right now between Mac Jones and Devonta Smith might be something we haven't seen in over a decade or so. And I might be a prisoner of the moment, haven't really been able to go back and think back about some of the outstanding quarterback wide receiver combos that we've seen in college football. But what we're seeing right now in the fashion and how they're dominating and talking about ranked opponents they've been able to put up big time numbers against as well, this is a thing of beauty. It's a scary sight if you're facing this offense and you're on the defensive side of the ball, or if you're a defensive-minded coach that's trying to call up plays to be able to neutralize what they're doing offensively. Because Devonta Smith, like I said, he reminds me a lot of Allen Iverson. The smallest guy, not the biggest guy, but he plays with a big heart, and he continues to dominate.
The SEC title game matchup is now set between Florida and Alabama. We're going to get to a preview of that at the top of the hour, but we do have to address LSU here for a moment. It has been a stark fall from grace following the national championship. They now become one of 3 teams to follow up a championship season with a losing record. Is this more than just a single season outlier in your eyes, B-Mac?
It better be. It better be because of the abnormal season. I think some people may give Coach O and his staff a pass. When you combine all the players they lost to the National Football League, when you also factor in a lot of key players that were supposed to return, decided to opt out, and this was a very difficult season with all the COVID-related issues, some people may give Coach O a pass. But next season, no passes will be given. You better believe the expectations will be extremely high once again, especially in the SEC West. Your job is to compete against Alabama on the gridiron and in the recruiting trail as well. So no passes will be given in 2021. And some people may not give them a pass this season in 2020 because of all the obstacles they've had to go through. The same can be said for every other elite college football program that's currently playing football as well. So I think this could be that one year where it might not hit home. The criticism and the naysayers may not come out as much. But, Joe, they can't afford to have another mishap, another letdown type year in 2021, because if they do, you better believe the pressure will be over Coach O and his staff.
Yeah, I think Ed O gets a mulligan, so to speak, this year, but I think he deserves that disappointed dad look. I'm a dad of 9 and 5 and 4-year-olds. You get that disappointed look like, really? Like, this should not happen. And so, yeah, I think 2021 is going to be big. And look, it's hard to sustain success as a head coach, especially if you've never had to do it before. And clearly, that's a problem. Now, COVID has a little bit to do with that, and obviously personnel issues do too. But he's going to have to get that culture back. I think the culture's broken. You can tell it is. These players are disinterested. And on top of that, he made a terrible hire in Bo Pelini, a defensive coordinator, and things just aren't working. It's a broken program right now. Now, LSU's talented. LSU has a foundation that works, and LSU has a potential to be a national championship caliber team again. But what Ed Orgeron has to do is he's got to fix that foundation. He's got to get that Flex Seal, slap it against that foundation, and make sure those cracks disappear, because next year he cannot have this again. It's just, and I compared it at halftime to Gene Chizik at Auburn in 2011. They went 8-5. They won a bowl game, but they really got blown out in all of their important games after winning the national title the year before. Well, the next year they went 3-9 and Gene Chizik got fired. I'm not saying this could happen to this LSU team, but would it be overtly shocking if it did? After what we've seen this year, I'd say no. So you give him a mulligan, you give him a pass, but you look at him with that stern, disappointed dad look and say, all right, you can't do this again.
It looks like it will take a bit more than infomercial sealant to stop the Alabama Crimson Tide this season. At least Saturday proved it so. Gentlemen, thank you for the insights. Don't move. We got plenty more coming at the top of the hour.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.